What if some of history's What if some of history's most remarkable wellness plants were hiding in plain sight inside the Bible, long before pharmacies existed, before laboratories, before modern medicine? Ancient civilizations depended on nature for food, nourishment, healing traditions, fragrance, and survival. Many of these plants were so valuable that kings traded them. Travelers crossed deserts to acquire them, and entire economies were built around them. Today, thousands of years later, many of these same plants continue to captivate scientists, nutrition experts, historians, and wellness enthusiasts around the world. In this video, we'll explore 10 extraordinary biblical plants and herbs that have stood the test of time. And make sure you stay until the very end, because the final plant on today's list may be one of the most expensive natural substances mentioned in biblical history. Let's begin on this fascinating journey together. Number 10. Olive, the tree of life. If one plant symbolizes biblical history more than any other, it may be the olive tree. Olive branches represented peace. Olive oil illuminated homes. Kings were anointed with it. Families depended upon it. The olive tree became a symbol of endurance, prosperity, and divine blessing. Today, olive oil remains one of the most celebrated foods in the world and serves as the foundation of the Mediterranean lifestyle. Did you know that some olive trees living today are believed to be over 2,000 years old? Imagine a tree that may have witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations. But the next biblical fruit may be even more visually stunning. Number 9. Pomegranate, the jewel of the ancient world. The pomegranate was considered a symbol of abundance, fertility, and prosperity. Its crown-shaped top made it appear almost royal. Ancient artisans decorated clothing, temples, and sacred objects with pomegranate imagery. And once you open one, it's easy to understand why. Hundreds of ruby-red seeds glisten like precious gemstones. Here's a fun fact. A single pomegranate can contain more than 600 seeds. That's hundreds of opportunities for future growth contained within one fruit. But while pomegranates thrived in fertile regions, our next plant conquered some of the harshest deserts on Earth. Number 8. Date palm, the desert survivor. Imagine traveling for days beneath the scorching Middle Eastern sun. Then suddenly, you see a date palm. For ancient travelers, this often meant life. Date palms provided food, shade, shelter materials, and hope. Their fruit became a critical source of nourishment throughout biblical lands. An interesting fact, date palms can thrive in temperatures exceeding 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Few fruit-bearing trees on Earth can survive such extremes. Yet our next plant possesses an even more astonishing survival ability. Number 7. Aloe, the remarkable succulent. Aloe appears in biblical references as a treasured aromatic plant. For centuries, civilizations across the world valued aloe for its unique characteristics. What makes aloe so remarkable? Its ability to store water. A curious fact, an aloe plant can survive weeks without rainfall by holding moisture within its leaves. Nature essentially designed its own water reservoir. But aloe wasn't the most valuable plant product in biblical times. Not even close. The next one was worth a fortune. Number 6. Frankincense, worth more than gold. When most people hear the word frankincense, they think of the wise men. But frankincense was much more than a gift. It was one of the most valuable commodities in the ancient world. Harvested from desert trees, this fragrant resin required tremendous labor to collect. Trade routes stretched thousands of miles across deserts to transport it. A curious fact, some varieties of frankincense remain highly prized and expensive today. Yet surprisingly, the next biblical resin was often considered even more precious. Number 5. Myrrh, the treasure of kings. Myrrh was one of antiquity's most sought-after treasures. It was used in perfumes, ceremonial preparations, and luxury goods. Because obtaining it was difficult, myrrh commanded extraordinary value. Imagine merchants risking a dry desert, many storms, and bandits to transport a fragrant resin. That's how valuable it was. A super interesting fact, ancient trade routes carrying myrrh stretched across entire continents. And now, let's explore one of the smallest plants with one of the biggest lessons. Number 4. Mustard seed, the tiny seed with a big story. At first glance, a mustard seed doesn't look impressive. In fact, it's one of the smallest seeds mentioned in the Bible. You could easily overlook it. Yet this tiny seed became one of Jesus' most powerful teaching tools. In the Gospel accounts, Jesus compared faith to a mustard seed, explaining that even something incredibly small can grow into something much larger than anyone expects. And that comparison wasn't accidental. When planted, a mustard seed can grow into a large shrub that provides shelter for birds and wildlife. A remarkable transformation from something almost invisible. But the story of mustard seed doesn't end there. For thousands of years, mustard seeds have also been valued in kitchens and traditional wellness practices across many cultures. Ancient civilizations throughout the Middle East, Asia, and Europe cultivated mustard plants for their seeds, which were prized for their bold flavor and versatility. Today, mustard seeds contain naturally occurring compounds called glucosinolates. When the seeds are crushed or ground, these compounds help create mustard's distinctive aroma and spicy flavor. Scientists continue studying these naturally occurring plant compounds and their role in nutrition and plant biology. Did you know? The spicy sensation you experience when eating mustard doesn't come from heat like chili peppers. Instead, it comes from natural chemical reactions that occur when mustard seeds are crushed and mixed with liquid. That's why freshly prepared mustard often has a stronger flavor. Now let's bring this ancient biblical plant into the modern kitchen. Mustard seeds remain one of the most widely used spices in the world. They are featured in countless cuisines, from Mediterranean and Middle Eastern dishes to Indian and European recipes. One of the simplest and most delicious ways to enjoy mustard seeds today is in a roasted vegetable dish. Imagine fresh Brussels sprouts, carrots, and sweet potatoes tossed with olive oil, garlic, and lightly toasted mustard seeds. As the vegetables roast, the mustard seeds add a subtle nutty flavor and gentle crunch. Another popular use is in homemade vinaigrettes. Mix olive oil, lemon juice, a touch of honey, and whole grain mustard to create a flavorful dressing inspired by ingredients that have been enjoyed for centuries. And of course, mustard remains a classic companion for sandwiches, hot dogs, grilled vegetables, and many traditional dishes around the world. Perhaps that's why the mustard seed remains so fascinating. It reminds us that something small can have an enormous impact. Whether in faith, history, cooking, or everyday life, some of the greatest transformations begin with the smallest beginnings. And speaking of refreshing flavors, our next biblical herb has delighted people for thousands of years and may already be growing in your kitchen right now. Let's explore mint. Number 3 is mint, the refreshing favorite. Mint has delighted people for thousands of years. Its unmistakable aroma made it valuable throughout biblical lands. Ancient people appreciated its refreshing qualities and pleasant fragrance. Here's a fun fact about mint. There are more than 25 different varieties of mint found around the world today. Some smell sweet, others smell spicy, some even smell slightly like chocolate. Quite wonderful. But the next plant reveals something fascinating about human genetics. Number 2, ranked on our list today, is coriander, the plant that divides the world. The Bible compares manna to coriander seed. And today, coriander remains one of the most widely used herbs and spices worldwide. But here's where things get interesting. For some people, it tastes fresh and vibrant. For others, it tastes like soap. Have you tasted modern-day coriander? And now we arrive at the final plant in today's countdown. Our number 1 for today goes to dill, the humble spice with a big history. At first glance, dill may seem ordinary, but appearances can be deceiving. This aromatic herb was important enough to be mentioned in biblical times and valued throughout ancient societies. For thousands of years, people cultivated dill for its flavor and fragrance. Here's an interesting fact. Dill has been cultivated by humans for over 5,000 years. Think about that. Generation after generation continued growing the same humble herb because they found it useful and valuable. And that alone says something remarkable about its enduring place in human history. Today, we've explored 10 incredible biblical plants that shaped ancient civilizations and continue to fascinate people thousands of years later. But our journey is only halfway complete, because in part 2, we'll uncover 10 more biblical plants, including garlic, figs, almonds, grapevines, hyssop, cumin, the majestic cedar of Lebanon, and one mysterious plant known as the balm of Gilead, whose true identity still puzzles historians today. Trust us, you do not want to miss that episode. So before you go, tell us in the comments, which biblical plant surprised you the most? The ancient olive tree, the desert-defying date palm, or the tiny mustard seed? If you enjoyed this journey through biblical history, wellness traditions, and nature's wonders, subscribe and turn on notifications. Part 2 is coming soon, and some of the most fascinating plants are still ahead. Feel free to leave a comment below, and thank you for watching.